What happens when love, money, and betrayal collide? What if the person you trusted the most, the one you shared your home, your dreams, and your life with, suddenly turned into your worst nightmare? This is the story of 90 Day Fiancé star Darcey Silva and her ex-husband Georgie. A romance that once looked glamorous on reality TV has now crumbled into a scandal filled with divorce papers, stolen fortune, and secret love affairs. Yes, you heard it right. Darcey Silva sold her house and property for $900,000. Georgie and Darcey Silva's officially divorced. Georgie cunningly stole Darcey Silva's saved $1 million and secretly fled. And with the money, Georgie goes to his secret girlfriend Amber. Georgie has been secretly in a romantic relationship with Amber for the past 1 year. Many people claim to have seen Georgie several times in different restaurants, but he wasn't alone. He was with his secret girlfriend, Amber. Darcey Silva subsequently filed a lawsuit against Georgie, accusing her of stealing $1 million. After the hearing, the court found Georgie guilty and sentenced her to 1 year in prison. This isn't just a story of love gone wrong. It's a cautionary tale about trust, betrayal, and the devastating price of ignoring red flags. So grab a seat, because in this video, we'll take you through every detail of how Darcey Silva went from star of a hit reality show to a woman fighting for justice against a man who broke her heart and her bank account. Before the heartbreak, before the scandal, there was Darcey Silva, a woman who built her name on television, fashion, and relentless determination. Darcey first appeared on TLC's 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days, instantly becoming one of the most recognizable faces of the franchise. Fans loved her vulnerability, her hope for true love, and the emotional rollercoaster of her relationships. But Darcey wasn't just a reality TV personality. She was also a businesswoman. Alongside her twin sister Stacey, she launched the fashion brand House of 11. What started as a small project turned into a brand worn by celebrities and featured in major outlets. Behind the cameras, Darcey's personal life was complicated. She had already endured heartbreaks, failed relationships, and the struggles of being a single mother raising her 2 daughters. Yet, she never gave up on love. She believed, perhaps too strongly, in giving people chances. That belief would eventually lead her to Georgie. Georgie was a Bulgarian model and masseur who seemed to offer the romance Darcey had always dreamed of. He was younger, charming, and, at least in the beginning, attentive. Their love story unfolded both on and off television, and fans watched as the couple moved in together, exchanged promises, and talked about marriage. For a moment, it looked like Darcey had finally found her happily ever after. But behind the Instagram smiles and red carpet appearances, cracks were already forming. Georgie's lack of ambition, his unwillingness to share financial responsibilities, and his distant attitude was starting to worry Darcey's friends, and even her twin sister Stacey. Yet, Darcey brushed aside the warnings. She had been through so much in her love life that she wanted to believe this relationship was different. In her heart, she thought she had finally found the one. But in reality, she had just stepped into the most painful chapter of her life. Every love story has a beginning, and for Darcey Silva and Georgie, it was one that seemed almost too perfect to be true. Darcey had already been through very public heartbreaks. Fans of 90 Day Fiancé knew her struggles all too well. Long-distance relationships that didn't work out, tears shed on camera, and dreams of marriage that never quite came true. But when Georgie entered her life, he brought with him the promise of a new chapter. Georgie wasn't just another man. To Darcey, he represented everything she thought she wanted. He was tall, handsome, European, and younger. A man who gave her attention and made her feel adored. To someone who had been searching for genuine love for years, Georgie seemed like the answer to her prayers. Their romance unfolded like a whirlwind. Late-night conversations turned into shared mornings. Instagram posts showed them smiling, traveling, and living a picture-perfect lifestyle. Fans who followed Darcey on social media noticed how often she spoke about love, commitment, and building a future together. And Georgie, He played his role well. He told Darcey what she wanted to hear. Promises of loyalty, of building a life together, of being her rock when things got tough. When the cameras rolled for Darcey and Stacey, viewers got a front row seat to their relationship. TLC producers painted their story as a modern fairy tale, the glamorous reality star and the mysterious European man building a life side by side. But behind the cameras, there were already signs of trouble. Darcey's friends and family weren't convinced. Stacey, her twin sister, often expressed doubts. She worried that Georgie wasn't truly in it for love, that maybe his intentions weren't as pure as he claimed. Others noticed Georgie's lack of career ambition. He worked occasionally, but it was Darcey's fame, her brand, and her finances that carried the relationship. Still, Darcey chose hope over caution. She ignored the whispers and focused on what she believed was love. She wanted to believe Georgie was different from the men who had hurt her in the past. Together, they shared glamorous moments, expensive dinners, romantic getaways, and cozy nights in Darcey's home. The kind of romance that fans dreamed about for her. But every smile in public was shadowed by arguments in private. Money, trust, and Georgie's unwillingness to fully commit became recurring battles. Darcey longed for a stable, transparent partner. Georgie seemed content with vague promises and half-truths. And yet, Darcey stayed. Because when you've been searching for love as long as she had, you hold on to hope, even when it begins to hurt. What she didn't know was that the very man she was trying to build a future with was already laying the foundation for her greatest heartbreak. Every relationship has challenges, but in Darcey and Georgie's case, the warning signs weren't small. They were massive red flags waving in plain sight. At first, the issues seemed subtle. Darcey noticed Georgie's laid-back attitude about work and finances. While she was juggling her brand, her daughters, and filming for TLC, Georgie seemed content doing very little. He would occasionally model, but his career never took off in the way Darcey hoped. Instead, he leaned on her, emotionally, and, as time would prove, financially. Darcey's family and friends grew concerned. Stacey, her twin sister, often voiced her worries on the show. She noticed Georgie's lack of motivation and questioned whether he was truly committed to Darcey, or if he was simply enjoying the lifestyle her fame provided. Fans of Darcey and Stacey also saw glimpses of the tension. Georgie often appeared distant on camera, sometimes cold, even when Darcey poured her heart out. Instead of reassuring her, he'd dismiss her concerns with short, cutting responses. The red flags kept piling up. Georgie was often vague about his past, especially about his ex-wife and his financial situation. Darcey discovered that Georgie was carrying debts and wasn't upfront about them. Instead of being honest, he downplayed the seriousness. While Darcey longed for romantic gestures and stability, Georgie often pulled away, leaving her feeling unsupported. Friends claimed that Georgie tried to distance Darcey from people who questioned him, making her more dependent on him. Despite these issues, Darcey's heart won over her head. She wanted to believe in their love story. After years of heartbreaks, she refused to walk away too quickly. But behind her determination was also fear. Fear of starting over. Fear of being alone. Fear that maybe, just maybe, this was as good as love would ever get for her. That fear kept her holding on, even as Georgie's behavior grew colder. And then came the breaking point. Darcey started noticing inconsistencies in Georgie's actions. He would disappear for hours without explanation. He became defensive when asked about money. And whispers began to circulate. Whispers that Georgie was being seen with someone else. At first, Darcey brushed it off. But deep down, she knew something wasn't right. The man she thought was her soulmate was slowly becoming a stranger. And soon, that stranger would show his true colors in the most devastating way possible. After the painful divorce, Darcey Silva was determined to turn the page. She wanted a fresh start, for herself, for her daughters, and for the life she had worked so hard to build. One of her biggest steps in moving forward was selling her property. It wasn't just a house. For Darcey, it represented years of memories, dreams, and the painful shadow of her relationship with Georgie. When she finally sold it for $900,000, it was supposed to mark a turning point. That money would give her the stability to rebuild her future, new opportunities, new beginnings, and the financial cushion she needed after years of emotional and financial strain. Fans and followers saw this move as a bold decision. On social media, many praised her for taking control of her life. "Strong women rebuild," one fan commented. Others said it was the closure she desperately needed after years of heartbreak. But behind the headlines and Instagram posts, Darcey's financial reality was complicated. She had legal fees from the divorce. She had business expenses for House of 11. She had her daughter's future to think about. This $900,000 sale was more than just money in the bank. It was her lifeline. At the time, Darcey believed she was safe. She thought the worst was over. She had let go of Georgie. She had moved on from the toxic marriage, and she had the resources to finally start again. But what she didn't realize was that Georgie wasn't done with her. Not yet. Behind the scenes, Georgie had been watching. He knew about her savings. He knew about her property sale. And most importantly, he knew how much she trusted him in the past, even when she shouldn't have. That trust would soon become his weapon. Because while Darcey believed she was stepping into her new life, Georgie was already plotting his next move. One that would cost her not just the love she lost, but the fortune she had fought so hard to protect. The sale of her home gave her freedom, but it also gave Georgie the opportunity to strike. And soon, Darcey would discover that her $900,000 new beginning was just the setup for a $1 million betrayal. Darcey Silva thought the storm had passed. She had sold her property for $900,000, put her divorce behind her, and was finally ready to rebuild her life. But life has a cruel way of testing those who have already suffered. One morning, Darcey sat down to go over her finances. She logged into her accounts, the same accounts she had worked tirelessly to build from years of reality TV, fashion projects, and endorsements. But something was wrong. Her balance was lower, much lower. At first, she thought it was an error, a technical glitch, maybe a transfer delay. But as she dug deeper, her heart sank. The money she had trusted would secure her future, over $1 million in savings, was gone, vanished. Confused and panicked, Darcey began making calls. Her bank, her lawyer, her accountant. The answer was always the same. A series of withdrawals and transfers had drained her accounts. Withdrawals made with access that only someone close to her could have known. All signs pointed in one direction, and that direction had a name: Georgie Rusev. It was a cruel twist. The man she had once loved, the man she had forgiven time and time again, had not only broken her heart, but stolen her financial security. The whispers that had followed Georgie during their relationship suddenly made sense. His evasive answers, his obsession with her finances, his sudden disappearances. Darcey felt the walls closing in. Years of sacrifice, sleepless nights building her brand, the pain of her divorce, all of it had been wiped away in a matter of days by the person she once called her husband. And while she was left in shock, Georgie was nowhere to be found. Rumors began to circulate. Friends of friends claimed to have spotted him out in expensive restaurants. Some said he had been seen driving luxury cars, wearing designer clothes, living a life far beyond what he could have afforded on his own. But he wasn't alone. Whispers grew louder about a mysterious woman, someone Georgie had been seen with, always by his side. At first, Darcey didn't want to believe it, but the truth was undeniable. The missing $1 million wasn't just stolen. It had been used to fund a new life with Georgie's secret girlfriend, Amber. For Darcey, it was the ultimate betrayal. Not just financial theft, not just infidelity, but a deliberate, cunning scheme that left her broken in every way. The man she once believed was her soulmate had become her greatest enemy. And now, Darcey had a choice: remain silent and accept the loss, or fight back with everything she had left. She chose to fight, because this time, it wasn't just about heartbreak. It was about justice. Every betrayal has a face, and in Darcey Silva's case, that face belonged to a woman named Amber. For months, rumors swirled around Georgie Rusev's behavior after the divorce. He was spotted dining in upscale restaurants, shopping at luxury boutiques, and living a lifestyle far above his known income. But the most shocking part wasn't the money, it was who he was spending it with. Her name appeared first in whispers. Friends of friends mentioned her. Fans claimed to have seen Georgie with a mystery woman. Eventually, the mystery had a name: Amber. Amber wasn't just a casual acquaintance. She was Georgie's secret girlfriend, and according to sources close to the couple, they had been romantically involved for at least 1 year, even before Darcey and Georgie's marriage officially ended. Imagine Darcey's shock. While she was pouring her energy into saving her marriage, forgiving Georgie's lies, and building a future together, Georgie was already building a double life. Amber became the center of the scandal. People began connecting the dots. The expensive dinners Georgie couldn't have afforded on his own. He was taking Amber. The trips and outings. Amber was by his side. The sudden disappearance of Darcey's savings, it was fueling their secret romance. Eyewitnesses claimed to have seen them holding hands in public, whispering over candlelit meals, laughing together as though they had no care in the world. To outsiders, they looked like a new couple in love. But to Darcey, every sighting was another stab to the heart. It wasn't just the betrayal of infidelity, it was the public humiliation. For a woman who lived her life in front of cameras, Darcey couldn't escape the headlines. Articles described Georgie's new girlfriend. Gossip blogs speculated about how long the affair had been going on. Fans debated whether Georgie had ever truly loved Darcey at all. And then came the cruelest twist. Many believed Amber knew about Darcey all along. She knew Georgie was married. She knew he was using Darcey's money. Yet she didn't walk away. She stayed, enjoying the luxury stolen from another woman's savings. Darcey's friends rallied around her. Stacy, her twin sister, openly criticized Georgie, calling out his lies and his betrayal. Fans flooded social media with messages of support for Darcey, praising her strength and encouraging her to rise above. But the damage was already done. Darcey's heart had been shattered, her reputation dragged through the mud, and her savings stolen. All while Georgie and Amber flaunted their romance as though nothing was wrong. To the world, Georgie and Amber looked like a new couple enjoying their love story. But behind the headlines, justice was brewing, because Darcey wasn't done fighting. And soon, Georgie and Amber would learn that stolen love and stolen money always come with a price. For Darcey Silva, the heartbreak was private, until it wasn't. The moment Georgie Rusev's secret relationship with Amber began to spill into public view, the betrayal transformed into a full-blown scandal. At first, it was whispers in the background, a photo here, a sighting there. But soon, the rumors took on a life of their own. Fans of 90 Day Fiancé and Darcey and Stacy's started posting on social media. I saw Georgie at a restaurant downtown. He wasn't alone. He was with a brunette woman. Pretty sure Georgie and his new girlfriend just walked past me at the mall. Didn't Darcey just sell her property for $900,000? How is Georgie suddenly living like a king? The pieces came together quickly, and the narrative was devastating. Georgie Rusev had stolen $1 million from Darcey and was flaunting it with his new girlfriend, Amber. The betrayal wasn't just personal anymore, it was public. Blogs, tabloids, and entertainment news outlets seized the story. Headlines screamed about the stolen fortune, the secret affair, and Darcey's humiliation. For Darcey, every headline was a fresh wound. It wasn't just about losing money or being cheated on. It was about the world watching her heartbreak unfold in real time. Her daughters asked questions. Fans demanded answers. Even her critics, those who had once mocked her for chasing love, were now expressing sympathy. And the betrayal wasn't quiet. Eyewitness accounts painted vivid pictures of Georgie and Amber's outings. They weren't hiding. They walked into restaurants hand in hand. They laughed loudly over glasses of champagne. They posed for selfies in public places, as though daring the world to see. For Darcey, it was the ultimate humiliation. Not only had her ex-husband stolen from her, he was parading his betrayal as if it were a trophy. But Darcey was no stranger to public pain. She had cried on television before, She had endured heartbreak in front of millions, and she had always gotten back up. This time, however, she refused to just cry and move on. This time, she wanted justice. Her lawyers advised her to file a lawsuit. Friends urged her to take Georgie to court. And Darcey, tired of being the woman everyone pitied, decided to do just that. She was going to expose Georgie, not just as a cheating partner, but as the thief. The betrayal had unfolded in public, and now the fight for justice would too. When betrayal becomes too heavy to carry alone, the next step is justice. And for Darcey Silva, justice meant taking Georgie Rusev to court. The decision wasn't easy. Lawsuits are expensive, exhausting, and invasive. But Darcey had already lost so much: her trust, her savings, and her dignity in the public eye. If she stayed silent, Georgie would walk away not just with her money, but with the last word. Her legal team began building the case. They pored over bank statements, property records, and every financial trail that led to the missing $1 million. The evidence was damning. Multiple transfers traced back to accounts tied to Georgie. Withdrawals he couldn't explain. Purchases he couldn't afford without access to Darcey's funds. The lawsuit accused Georgie of theft, fraud, and misappropriation of assets. When the papers were officially filed, the media exploded again. Entertainment news outlets flashed the headline everywhere: Darcey Silva sues ex-husband Georgie Rusev for $1 million theft. Fans rallied around Darcey. Social media buzzed with hashtags Justice for Darcey and hashtag Georgie Exposed. People who had once criticized Darcey for chasing love now praised her courage for standing up for herself. But Georgie wasn't about to sit quietly. Through his own legal team, he denied everything. He claimed Darcey had willingly given him money, that she had supported him during their relationship, and that the lawsuit was nothing more than revenge from a bitter ex-wife. Yet, the court documents told a different story. Screenshots of bank transactions, witness statements from people who saw him spending lavishly, testimony about his relationship with Amber, which tied directly to the sudden disappearance of funds. Darcey's lawyers painted a clear picture. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate act of betrayal. The case drew massive public attention. Reality TV fans, legal analysts, and gossip blogs all tuned in to watch the unfolding drama. For weeks, it felt less like a private court battle and more like a public spectacle. But for Darcey, it wasn't about the headlines. It was about her daughters, her future, and proving that no one, not even the man she once loved, could steal from her and walk away without consequences. The lawsuit was filed, the courtroom dates were set, and the world waited for the showdown. Darcey Silva versus Georgie Rusev, a love story turned into a legal war. And soon, the truth would be decided not by whispers or rumors, but by a judge's gavel. The day finally arrived. Darcey Silva and Georgie Rusev, once husband and wife, once lovers on reality TV, now stood on opposite sides of a courtroom, no longer bound by love, but locked in a legal war. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, bloggers, and curious onlookers filled the benches, eager to witness the scandal that had captivated headlines. Outside, camera flashes lit up as Darcey arrived, dressed in black, her expression determined but heavy with emotion. Georgie arrived separately, avoiding the press, his face stern and unreadable. For Darcey, it wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about dignity, justice, and showing her daughters that she wouldn't be broken by betrayal. Her lawyers opened the case with powerful evidence: bank statements showing unexplained withdrawals, transfers to accounts linked directly to Georgie, luxury purchases, designer clothes, cars, expensive trips, all made during the time Darcey's money went missing. Witnesses were called. Friends testified to seeing Georgie with Amber at expensive restaurants. Financial experts broke down the transactions in detail, proving they weren't gifts, but deliberate acts of theft. And then came Darcey's turn. On the stand, her voice trembled but never broke. She spoke of trust, of how she let Georgie into her home, into her finances, and into her heart. She explained how she believed in him, how she supported him, how she gave him chance after chance, and how, in return, He emptied her accounts and humiliated her in public. Her testimony moved the courtroom. Some jurors even wiped away tears. Then it was Georgie's turn. His lawyers argued that Darcey exaggerated, that she was a drama queen chasing headlines, that she had given him money willingly. Georgie himself claimed he never stole. He simply borrowed. He insisted that Darcey's lawsuit was revenge for the divorce, nothing more. But his words fell flat. When pressed with hard evidence, Georgie stumbled. He couldn't explain the luxury car. He couldn't explain the lavish trips with Amber. And when asked directly why his account suddenly swelled with deposits right after Darcey's money disappeared, his answers were evasive. The courtroom tension was electric. Every statement felt like a blow, every objection like a small battle in the larger war. After days of testimony, arguments, and cross-examinations, the moment of truth arrived. The judge prepared to deliver the verdict. Darcey sat silently, clutching her lawyer's hand. Georgie sat across from her, jaw tight, eyes darting nervously. The courtroom held its breath as the judge spoke. The court finds Georgie Rusev guilty of theft and fraud. He is hereby sentenced to 1 year in prison. The room erupted. Reporters rushed out to file stories. Gasps echoed across the benches. Darcey closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. Not of sadness this time, but of relief. After months of betrayal, humiliation, and heartbreak, justice had finally been served. Georgie sat frozen. His once proud demeanor crumbled as reality sank in. Guards moved to escort him out. For the first time, the man who had taken everything from Darcey had nothing. The courtroom drama had ended. But for Darcey Silva, this was more than a legal victory. It was the moment she took her power back. The courtroom verdict gave Darcey Silva the justice she had been fighting for. But justice doesn't erase pain. In the days following Georgie Rusev's sentencing, the world waited for Darcey's response. Fans flooded her social media with messages of support, urging her to stay strong. Entertainment outlets camped outside her home, desperate for a statement. And when Darcey finally spoke, her words were raw, emotional, and unforgettable. Standing in front of cameras, dressed in a simple but elegant black outfit, she didn't hide her tears. Her voice trembled as she addressed the world. "This has been the hardest chapter of my life. I gave my heart, my trust, and my future to someone who didn't deserve it. What Georgie did to me wasn't just betrayal. It was theft of everything I worked for, everything I built for my daughters, and everything I believed in. But today, I stand here stronger. He may have taken my money, but he will never take my spirit." Her words struck a chord. Fans who had watched her journey on 90-Day Fiancé and Darcey and Stacey's saw a woman who had endured heartbreak on camera for years. But now, she wasn't just crying in front of the world, she was fighting back. Darcey says, "I want to thank my daughters, my family, and every fan who has stood by me. This fight wasn't just for me. It was for every woman who has ever been betrayed, every person who has ever been lied to, and everyone who has ever had their trust broken. Don't stay silent. Don't let anyone steal your voice. Fight for yourself. Because you are worth it." The statement went viral. Hashtags like Darcey Strong and Justice for Darcey trended worldwide. Celebrities and fellow reality TV stars reached out publicly, praising her courage. For the first time in a long time, Darcey wasn't seen as the woman crying over failed relationships. She was seen as a survivor, a fighter, and an example of resilience. Yet behind the applause, the pain remained. In private, Darcey still struggled. Friends revealed that nights were hardest for her. She would replay moments with Georgie in her head, the promises he made, the love he pretended to give. She wondered how she could have ignored the red flags for so long. But Darcey also knew she couldn't live in the past. With her daughters by her side, she began focusing on healing. Therapy sessions, long talks with Stacey, time spent rebuilding her brand and her personal life. She had lost $1 million. She had lost her marriage. She had lost trust in the man she once loved. But in the ashes of betrayal, Darcey found something she thought she had lost forever: her strength. The court may have sentenced Georgie to prison, but Darcey's victory was larger than that. She had reclaimed her dignity. And now, the world was waiting to see what she would do next. For Darcey Silva, the courtroom victory was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a long journey toward healing. The divorce had stripped her of more than just money. It had shaken her trust, wounded her spirit, and placed her life under a microscope. But Darcey was determined not to let betrayal define her future. Instead, she turned her pain into motivation. At home, her daughters became her anchor. Throughout the turmoil, they had watched their mother fight, fall, and rise again. Darcey wanted to show them that no matter how deep the scars, strength comes from refusing to give up. Family dinners, movie nights, and quiet moments with her girls became her safe space. She reminded them, and herself, that love still existed, even if the romantic kind had let her down. Stacy, her twin sister, played a crucial role as well. The bond between the Silva twins had always been strong, but this scandal drew them even closer. Stacy often reminded Darcey that family is forever, while men come and go. The sisters leaned on each other more than ever, sharing laughter, tears, and dreams of a brighter future. Darcey also threw herself back into work. Her fashion brand, House of 11, had suffered during her personal struggles, but now it became her outlet for empowerment. Every design, every photo shoot, and every launch was infused with her story, resilience, independence, and transformation. Fans responded passionately. Many women who had experienced betrayal connected deeply with Darcey's new messaging. She wasn't just selling clothes, she was selling strength, survival, and the courage to start over. On social media, Darcey embraced transparency. She posted uplifting quotes, behind-the-scenes glimpses of her brand, and heartfelt messages to fans. Her followers grew, not just because she was a reality TV star, but because she was relatable, a woman who had been broken but refused to stay down. Of course, the pain didn't vanish overnight. Nights were still hard. Memories of Georgie sometimes resurfaced. The thought of him living freely with Amber, even if only for a short while before prison, haunted her. But therapy helped. Her support system helped. And with time, the memories turned from open wounds into faded scars. Darcey began to see herself not as a victim, but as a survivor, a woman who had faced betrayal head-on and still found a way to shine. In interviews, Darcey began to speak less about Georgie and more about her vision. She talked about building her empire, inspiring women, and showing her daughters what true strength looked like. When asked about love, she admitted she hadn't given up, but she was clear. Her heart would no longer ignore red flags. She had learned the hard way that love without respect, honesty, and trust isn't love at all. For the first time in years, Darcey's story wasn't about chasing someone else's love. It was about building her own. The divorce had taken her money, her home, and her trust in Georgie. But what it gave her in return was something more valuable, a second chance at life on her own terms. Darcey Silva was no longer the woman crying on reality TV. She was the woman writing her own comeback story. When the judge's gavel came down, Georgie Rusev's life changed forever. Once a free man flaunting wealth he never earned, Georgie was now a convicted thief serving a 1-year prison sentence. For someone who had lived off appearances, expensive clothes, fine dining, and the illusion of success, prison was a brutal reality check. Gone were the luxury cars, the designer labels, the freedom to flaunt stolen wealth with Amber by his side. Instead, Georgie was stripped down to the basics, a cell, a routine, and the cold truth of his actions. Reports from inside suggested Georgie struggled to adapt. Prison wasn't glamorous. The model who once posed for cameras now faced long days of confinement, minimal privacy, and strict rules he couldn't charm his way out of. Some inmates reportedly recognized him from television, mocking him for being the reality TV husband who stole from his wife. Others avoided him, uninterested in his fame. The attention that once fed his ego now only deepened his shame. Georgie's attempts to justify himself didn't help. Sources claimed he often insisted he had been set up, blaming Darcey for his downfall rather than owning his mistakes. But the evidence was undeniable. He was no longer a mysterious foreign husband on a hit TV show. He was an inmate paying for his crimes. Meanwhile, Amber's role in the scandal made her a target of public backlash. Fans flooded her social media with accusations, calling her a homewrecker and a gold digger. Many believed she had knowingly enjoyed the stolen money and fueled Georgie's reckless spending. As Georgie sat behind bars, Amber's presence in his life grew quiet. Some said she visited him at first. Others claimed she quickly disappeared when the money dried up. Whether she stayed or not, the fairy tale romance built on betrayal was over. For fans of 90 Day Fiancé, Georgie's imprisonment felt like justice. Social media lit up with reactions. Karma finally caught up with him. Darcey deserves peace. He deserves the cell. You can't build a life on lies and expect it to last. The scandal had cemented Georgie's reputation, not as a reality star, but as a cautionary tale. His name became synonymous with betrayal, greed, and downfall. For Darcey, Georgie's imprisonment was bittersweet. On one hand, justice had been served. On the other, it was painful to accept that the man she once called her soulmate was now a convicted criminal. In private, she admitted it wasn't easy to see him behind bars. She had once loved him deeply after all. But she reminded herself that love without honesty isn't love at all, and Georgie had destroyed that long ago. Georgie's prison sentence wasn't just punishment for theft. It was the ultimate symbol of how lies, greed, and betrayal eventually collapse. His 1 year behind bars would end eventually, but the stain on his name would last far longer. The man who once lived off Darcey Silva's trust was now left with nothing but time to think about the money he stole, the love he betrayed, and the life he threw away. And outside those prison walls, Darcey was free. Every scandal has more than one villain. And in Darcey Silva's heartbreak, while Georgie Rusev may have stolen her money and trust, there was another figure in the shadows, Amber. From the moment her name first surfaced, Amber became the subject of intense scrutiny. Fans wanted to know who she was. Reporters dug into her past. Social media exploded with theories. Who was this woman who had captured Georgie's attention while he was still married to Darcey? Amber wasn't a household name. She wasn't a reality star or a public figure, but in gossip circles, she quickly became infamous. She was painted as the secret girlfriend, the woman Georgie had been spotted with in restaurants, shopping malls, and even on weekend getaways. To many, she represented not just infidelity, but also greed, because the lavish dinners, the luxury shopping bags, and the trips weren't funded by Georgie's hard work. They were funded by Darcey's stolen savings. Whether Amber knew the source of the money was debated. Some believe she was innocent, a woman swept up in Georgie's charm and lies. Others insisted she had to know, pointing to her willingness to flaunt expensive gifts and outings while Georgie had no steady income. The backlash against Amber was immediate and brutal. Social media labeled her a homewrecker. Fans of Darcey and Stacey flooded her accounts with angry comments. Some even blamed her for encouraging Georgie's betrayal, accusing her of being a partner in crime rather than just a girlfriend. The press wasn't kind either. Tabloids ran headlines like, "Meet Amber, the woman at the center of Darcey Silva's heartbreak. Georgie's secret love. Was Amber part of the $1 million scandal?" Her name became linked permanently with Georgie's downfall. Even if she had nothing to do with the theft directly, her presence symbolized the second layer of Darcey's humiliation. Not just financial betrayal, but emotional betrayal too. In the beginning, Amber seemed to stand by Georgie. She was seen visiting him, attending court hearings quietly in the background. But when the guilty verdict came and Georgie was sentenced to prison, her loyalty was tested. Reports suggested that Amber's presence in Georgie's life faded once the money ran out. Some claimed she stopped visiting him entirely. Others whispered that she moved on quickly, distancing herself from the scandal that had ruined her reputation. Whether she stayed or left, the damage was done. Amber's name was forever tied to one of the most public betrayals in reality TV history. Darcey, for her part, rarely mentioned Amber directly. In interviews, she chose her words carefully. She focused on Georgie's actions, on her fight for justice, and on her journey of healing. But those closest to her said Darcey privately saw Amber not as the cause of her heartbreak, but as a painful reminder of Georgie's lies. In Darcey's eyes, Amber was just another symptom of a bigger problem: Georgie's inability to be loyal, honest, and true. Amber may never be fully known to the public, her true intentions, her feelings, her role in the scandal. But in the story of Darcey Silva, she will always be remembered as the shadowy figure who stood beside Georgie during his betrayal. And while Georgie served his sentence, Amber faced her own kind of punishment, living with the stain of being the other woman in one of reality TV's most infamous betrayals. Every story has an ending, but for Darcey Silva, this scandal wasn't the end. It was a new beginning. She had lost a marriage. She had lost $1 million. She had endured the public humiliation of betrayal, lies, and a courtroom spectacle. But through it all, Darcey emerged not broken, but stronger. Darcey began focusing on herself in ways she hadn't before. Therapy sessions gave her tools to rebuild her confidence. Meditation and fitness became part of her routine. Slowly, the tears that once defined her public image were replaced by determination. Fans noticed the change. On social media, her posts shifted from heartbreak quotes to messages of empowerment. She shared moments with her daughters, laughing and smiling, reminding the world that love still lived in her family. Professionally, Darcey leaned back into her brand, House of 11. With Stacey by her side, she reframed the company as more than fashion. It became a message. Every collection, every campaign carried themes of strength, independence, and resilience. She also hinted at expanding beyond fashion. Reality TV producers remained interested in her story, and Darcey was in talks for new projects, including motivational speaking and a possible memoir. For the first time, she wasn't chasing love on screen. She was chasing empowerment. In interviews, Darcey reflected on her past without bitterness, but with clarity. She admitted she had ignored red flags, that her hope for love sometimes blinded her to reality. But she also emphasized that her mistakes were lessons she hoped other women could learn from. You can lose money, you can lose love, but you should never lose yourself. Her message resonated with fans, especially women who had faced betrayal. She became more than a reality star. She became a voice of survival. As for romance, Darcey didn't close the door. She admitted that her heart was still open to love, but she vowed never to settle for less than she deserved again. This time, she wasn't rushing. She wasn't ignoring signs. She was building boundaries, and anyone who wanted to be in her life had to respect them. In the end, Darcey Silva's story wasn't about Georgie. It wasn't about Amber. It wasn't even about the money. It was about transformation. She had been the woman who cried on reality TV, mocked for her vulnerability. Now, she was the woman who stood tall after the ultimate betrayal, inspiring thousands with her strength. Her legacy would not be the scandal, but the comeback. What happens when the person you love most becomes the one who betrays you the deepest? Can a woman rebuild her life after losing not only her marriage, but her fortune? Will Darcey Silva's story of heartbreak and resilience inspire others to walk away from toxic love? And when Georgie walks free from prison, will he try to reclaim the spotlight, or will his name forever remain in the shadows of disgrace? More update. Darcey Silva and Georgie's relationship seems to be facing new cracks, leaving fans questioning whether the couple is still together. Recent buzz suggests there might be real trouble in paradise. At the same time, Darcey herself has been making headlines for considering a surprising change, a make under surgery to reduce her breast implants, aiming for a softer and more feminine look. While Darcey's transformation plans sparked curiosity, her twin sister Stacey Silva has stepped in to defend her, publicly calling out Georgie for insulting and making fun of Darcey. On top of that, whispers about Darcey's surgery outcomes are fueling speculation, with some fans even wondering if a procedure may have gone wrong and left her face looking deformed. Altogether, the drama surrounding Darcey, Georgie, and Stacey is once again putting the Silva twins at the center of the spotlight. I will explain everything. Georgie and Darcey Silva seem to be going through a difficult time. On social media, the former alluded to the rifts in her marriage and acknowledged that things might not always be sunshine and flowers. The cast of 90 Day Fiancé left fans wondering if they were getting ready to appear on The Last Resort. Stacey, Darcey's sister, and Florian Sukac, her husband, attended couples therapy. On the broadcast, the couple worked on their disagreements and talked about their trust concerns. Georgie and Darcey joined happily ever after so that the show could highlight their marital turmoil. However, the couple's marriage is prone to fissures. The reality TV star's poor communication has caused them to experience a range of highs and lows. Off camera, however, the couple's relationship doesn't appear to be doing so well. What took place? Have they split up already? On 90 Day Fiancé, Georgie and Darcey are coping with a number of problems. Unfortunately, the pair struggled because of the former's disrespect for his wife and lack of communication. He didn't tell his wife that he got promoted at work. When Darcey found out about the secret and complained about the lack of openness, things rapidly got out of control. She questioned why Georgia kept his money hidden from her and wouldn't talk to her about their problems. The TLC star thought there was something wrong with her partner's decision to exclude her from his future plans. Rusev clarified that he kept the information a secret because he didn't want her to spend it all. When he made fun of Darcey following their wedding anniversary celebration, he faced a great deal of criticism. Rather than tending to his inebriated wife, the reality TV star made fun of her. Georgie Rusev and Darcey Silva have been dealing with a number of problems on HEA. The former did not treat his wife with respect or appropriately express his thoughts to her. Darcey is also unable to respect his culture by dressing modestly. She is making every effort to win over her in-laws. However, despite her best efforts, the TLC personality is unable to resolve her marital problems. Georgie recently wrote a charming post wishing Darcey a happy birthday. "Happy birthday to my beautiful queen," he wrote alongside a carousel of photos. Darcey, however, wasn't really pleased with her spouse for tagging her in pictures he posted. "Remove me from your Instagram. I don't want to be on your social media," she yelled. The 90 Day Fiancé actress stated that she didn't want to be used by her husband anymore. On Reddit, a fan talked about Darcey's breakdown while sharing a screenshot. Supporters thought it might be a means of getting to the next performance. "Is this a bid to be on 90 Days? Last Resort?" asked one admirer. Since Stacey had already made an appearance on the show, several fans believed Darcey had to go on it as well. "They went live together on TikTok this morning," another user wrote. It wasn't serious, according to fans, and Darcey and Stacey could do anything for fame. They also believe that in order to remain relevant, the reality TV star is inciting turmoil. How do you feel about this? Darcey Silva is considering a makeover for her breast implants for a more feminine look. Darcey Silva, a star of 90 Day Fiancé, is back in the news due to her recent plastic surgery. Her admirers are taken aback by the fact that she isn't permanently altering or improving her appearance. To get a more feminine appearance, the TLC actress is surprisingly thinking about getting smaller breast implants. Just like her twin sister Stacey, Darcey has recently made a full recovery from her last cosmetic procedure. When it comes to achieving their ideal body type, the siblings aren't afraid to try new things or alter their appearance. Cosmetic surgery is Darcey and Stacey's lifeblood. Their quest for the perfect appearance has taken them down many paths throughout the years. It would appear that the siblings have attempted everything. However, it appears that Darcey has reconsidered her decision to get breast implants and has opted for a lesser size. She wants to change it, but why? Would Stacey go with her? Darcey Silva, star of 90 Day Fiancé, is famous for her never-ending series of cosmetic treatments. She isn't afraid to try different cosmetics on her face. Fans were quite aback to learn that her husband, Georgie Rusev, also had plastic surgery. In an interview with Page 6, Darcey discussed her methods. The fox eye operation, which she underwent in April of this year, was discussed openly. After the surgeries, the reality TV star revealed how long it took for her to heal. Darcey also discussed her intentions for upcoming surgery. As a result, Her husband Georgie revealed that she had persuaded him to have several operations. A jawline, cheeks, and lips were all he confessed to having. The couple's apparent fixation on plastic surgery shocked fans, who feared that Georgie would soon join his wife in this unhealthy passion. In the most recent season of Happily Ever After, Darcey Silva's large breasts were a major obstacle. Inspiring others with her journey, she enjoys flaunting her figure. On the other hand, Georgie was of the opinion that the American native should dress more conservatively and not flaunt her bosom while they were in Georgia. Darcey craved respect and wasn't prepared to give it to her husband in exchange. Her intention to reduce the size of her breast implants was recently discussed. The celebrity from 90 Day Fiancé mentioned getting a make-under for her breasts. In reference to Stacey and her breast size, Silva said, "We were thinking of going a little smaller, maybe a size or two down." She thinks she is rather small nevertheless, and believes that sometimes less is more. "And I feel like they're a little heavy and weighing us down," the TLC star remarked. Something demure and feminine is what Darcey is aiming for. Along with her twin sister, she frequently visits Turkey for cosmetic operations. The country's reputation for affordable surgery attracts many famous faces. In the coming months, Darcey and Stacey will most certainly have surgical procedures. Page 6 states that they had previously discussed procedures with the doctors. The reality TV star may so make an imminent trip to Turkey. Many viewers could relate to Darcey's decision and were happy that she made it. They talked about the physical and mental challenges of dealing with larger breasts, including backaches and other ailments. Stacey Silva calls out Georgie for insulting and making fun of her twin sister Darcey. Stacey Silva is standing up for her sister Darcey and offering her support. Instead of helping her, she simply blasted her brother-in-law Georgie for making jabs at his wife. It was important to the 90 Day Fiancé star that no one make fun of her sister. Regardless of the circumstances, Darcey and Stacey have never been apart. Despite all the trouble they caused, the audience adored watching the sisters' friendship. All of the reality TV stars are constantly in each other's lives. This is why Darcey had Stacey and Florian over for her wedding anniversary celebration. Without her sister, she felt incomplete on this momentous occasion. But her husband Georgie wasn't exactly overjoyed by her choice. All he wanted was for his wife's sister to stay out of his celebration. In reality, what transpired? Georgie, what did he do? In the days leading up to their vacation to Bulgaria, Georgie and Darcey got into a heated dispute over her fashion choices. He asked his wife to dress more subtly and soften her features. Her wedding party attire, however, displeased the 90 Day Fiancé actress. Specifically, Darcey requested that Stacey and Florian transport the bridal gown she and Georgie had worn in America. On their special day, she wished she could replicate their outfit. Wearing a white gown with elaborate embroidery and details, the reality TV personality looked absolutely breathtaking. Additionally, Georgie wore the identical tuxedo that he had on during his wedding. She had plenty of time to choose her outfit, he said. Just what is she hoping for? Her plan to visit his family in a provocative attire made the reality TV star feel uneasy. Nonetheless, Georgie chose to end the argument and on with his life. In order to be a part of Darcey and Georgie's wedding, Stacey Silva and Florian Suchard went to Bulgaria. For their anniversary celebration, they opted to choreograph a unique dance. Seeing her sister around made Darcey very happy. Stacey cared more about the connection between her twin sister and her boyfriend. "A lot of times I don't think it's fair the way Georgie treats my sister," she said. "So I want to show Darcey my love and support." It made her happy to see that Darcey and Georgie were having fun. At the celebration, Georgie surprised the 90 Day Fiancé star by being really sweet to his wife. Says Stacey, "It's great to see Darcey and Georgie relax and enjoy themselves." She wished for perpetual happiness for herself and her spouse. Florian had the impression that Rusev was now enjoying himself with his wife to an unhealthy degree. As soon as they departed from the celebration, things started to go downhill. In the end, Darcey drank too much and became inebriated. As soon as she got out of the car, she began to vomit outside. Never before had Stacey witnessed her vomiting to such an extent, so she was taken aback. Nevertheless, rather than offering assistance, Georgie began making fun of Darcey and teasing her. He ought to be standing by her side, loving her, not pointing fingers, Stacey said. She wished he had stopped, even if it meant holding her hair. Does anybody want to poison the queen? Georgie joked. Is the rat somewhere? When she puked in the car, he was grossed out. Darcey Silva's surgery gone wrong? Face deformed. Fans of 90 Day Fiancé have developed new impressions of Darcey Silva throughout the years. In addition to her metamorphosis, she experienced a plethora of bodily changes. She and her twin sister shell out a hefty sum to maintain an appearance befitting a modern beauty queen. But now everyone can see that the renowned sister's face is deforming because of all these costly procedures. Then what gives? Continue reading to discover more. Darcey Silva's most authentic self was on full display when the 90 Day Fiancé series premiered. She and her twin sister Stacey became famous enough for TLC to give them their own show later on. Plastic surgery became a part of their routine as the show's popularity and income skyrocketed. Both sisters have undergone extensive plastic surgery to improve their appearance and athletic performance. Darcey, nevertheless, appears to be the one who has begun to feel its effects. The reason behind this is that her eyelids appeared unusual to several of her admirers who noticed her face. Furthermore, while attempting to address the camera via Instagram stories, she barely moved one side of her mouth. Then, a number of Redditors voiced their displeasure with the star's drastic style shifts throughout the years. More than that, people remembered how stunning she was in her Tom Brooks debut. Some fans were hoping that Darcey will have more procedures to correct the existing flow issues. But there are other fans who warned her against it. A fresh photo has recently gone viral. It would appear that Darcey Silva was being taught how to use Tinder by an unidentified man. Their eyes dart back and forth between her phone and the TV, which is acting strangely. Beer bottles are also held by them. Actually, the post was published by the well-known Instagram account, True Crime Junkie. Because of the 90 Day Fiancé stars' faces, viewers couldn't help but giggle at the photo's absurdity. The most recent interview confirms her worst fears, that she and her longtime lover Georgie have split. Actually, this is the second time Darcey has broken off her engagement to him. People have been wondering if she moved on too quickly because of this, but his identity is still a mystery. Therefore, there's no confirmation regarding him. No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.